Hello, my name is Mel, and this is my presentation on why 0 divided by 0 is undefined. It has no fucking answer. Here's our first topic. What is division? We are going to start at the very beginning so that everybody can be on the same page. So division is the concept of splitting up a value into more values that, if they're multiplied together, will equal the original value. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, and vice versa, 2 times 3 is 6. And you can also think of it as how many times does value x go into value y? So for example, how many times does 3 go into 6? The answer is 2 times, and you can find that out on your own time, or just note that off the top of your head. So, an important note to think about it the way I think about it is that another way you can think about division is that it's repeated subtraction. You're thinking to yourself, how many times can I take x out of y? How many times can I take 3 out of 6 before I reach 0? The answer is 6. 6 minus 3 is 3, that's 1 time, and 3 minus 3 is 0, that's 2 times. So now we move on to our example. I have 6 balls and I am trying to split them up into 3 sections. So I have 3 sections. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 3 balls in one section, and 1, 2, 3, 3 balls in the second section. And so that is 2 sections. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. I can also prove that the subtraction way. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 balls, and I will subtract 3 from both of them to show you that 6 minus 3 is 2. So we got 6, not 2, 0. So we got 6. That's 1 time minus 3. We have 3 left. That's another time, and now we have 0, and that was 2 times. So once again, 6 divided by 3 is 2. And now we have a main principle of my talk. Multiplication is the inverse of division. This will be very helpful later on. So, for an example, we have 56 divided by 8 is 7, and vice versa, 7 times 8 is 56. And we can simplify this into a rule. If x divided by y is z, then z times y equals x. And we will be using this in the future, and I will come back to this. Now we are on to our second topic. We are going to try dividing stuff in the real world. So, first, this is how my brain processes all of these scenarios that are going to happen. So now, this is what all of them are going to look like. There's going to be stuff on the top and stuff on the bottom. So what's on the top represents the original value. What's on the bottom represents what we're dividing by. And here's the most important part. If we're going to divide, we need to completely divide the original value up. That's what's on top. And when we correctly divide up the original value, it will disappear. We will not use it anymore, and we will be done. All right, here is our first scenario. We have 3 bowls of rice divided by 3 boys. Now, how are we going to divide this and get an answer? Well, I've drawn lines, and it's easy. We just give 1 bowl of rice to each boy, and they each have 1 bowl of rice. Now, the answer is each boy gets 1 bowl of rice, so 3 divided by 3 is 1, and we are done. The original value has disappeared, we are no longer using it, and we have an answer, and we're done. Here's scenario 2. We have 3 bowls of rice divided up to 1 boy. Now, what happens for this one is also quite simple. 3 divided by 1 is 3. You know that off the top of your head. We give each bowl of rice to the same boy, and now the original value has been divided up. It will disappear, and we will no longer use it. The answer is 3. He will have 3 bowls of rice. Each child will have 3 bowls of rice. Now, here's a slightly trickier problem. What happens if you can't evenly divide it up? Well, it's no big deal. First, we take these 3 bowls of rice and we give them to these 3 boys. And now it's been perfectly divided up and the original value has disappeared, right? Well, that's wrong because we have a remainder. And we don't like remainders, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this bowl of rice and divide it amongst the 3 boys, and now that has disappeared. So each boy now has 1 1/3 bowl of rice, and the original value is done. We have used all of it. It has disappeared. Nil, not a zilch. We're done. And now we're moving on to why I did that just now. We're going to be proving stuff. First off, why does 0 divided by a number work? Why, when 0 is not in the denominator spot, does it work? Well, we have nothing on the top, we have no bowls of rice, and we have 3 boys. Now, this might look hopeless at first, but fear not, we can do stuff. We can take this nothing and split it evenly amongst the boys, so each boy has the same amount of nothing. So each boy has nothing. 0 divided by 3 is 0 because each boy has nothing, and the original value has disappeared. Technically, it's 0 and nothing was there in the first place, but yeah, that was supposed to happen. Anyways, technically it's 0 and it was never there in the first place, but 0 represents the original value, and since we're done dividing, it's disappeared. We're done. And now, why when 0 is in the denominator spot, doesn't it work? Well, now we can try that. We have 3 bowls of rice and no boys. And so we can try and divide it. We can try and give the non-existent boy the rice. But then where are we giving the rice? We can't do that. If we are giving a non-existent boy rice, the rice isn't going anywhere. The rice is staying up here. Nothing is happening to the original value. But we have to divide. In order to divide, we have to get rid of the original value, but we can't. So what does this mean? It means that there's nothing we can do. There's no solution. 3 divided by 0 has no solution because you can't divide up the bowls of rice and get rid of the original value. You can't do it. See, it's a problem because the original value is still here. And now we're getting to the real meat of it. Why does 0 divided by 0 not work? And it's actually really simple because there's a 0 in the denominator spot. This doesn't matter. This is fine. It's this that we don't like. So now we have nothing divided by nothing. We have no bowls of rice and no boys. So if we can't give any boys any bowls of rice, then we're in the same predicament as we were before. We can't do anything. So we can't get rid of the original value. And I know that it looks like, but wait a minute, the original value is 0. The original value was never there in the first place. Yes, it was. When I had a circle here, I wasn't circling the rice, I was circling the original value, which was the rice. And it's still there. And with here, there's a circle, yes. The original value is still there. It hasn't been divided yet. So, if we have no boys and they can't take any of the nothing, then all of the nothing is still here. It hasn't been divided, and it can never be divided because there's no answer. There can't be an answer. So, once we're done with topic 2, I'm not even going to bother going all the way back there. We have our mathematical proofs, and this will also prove that 0 divided by 0 makes no sense. First off, I do have something to confess. Sorry, I thought I heard footsteps, but it was just my heart beating in my ears. I do have something to confess. I was wrong. I was wrong about 0 divided by 0 being 1. I mean, well, kind of wrong, but I'll get into that later. But you shouldn't get too cocky because you guys were equally as wrong. So, we're going to get back into our formula that we had earlier, where if something divided by something else was x, then x times something else would have to be the original dividend. And so we're going to use that in 0 divided by 0, and this might make the most amount of sense. I might have used big, weird words with the other one. That's okay, because this will make more sense. So we have 0 divided by 0, and this doesn't make sense. So we don't know the answer yet. We'll use x, because x is a variable. And now, because of what we talked about earlier with multiplication being the inverse of division, this should also mean x times 0 equals 0. And then just look at this. X times 0 equals 0. What do you notice about that? Something is very wrong. And what's wrong about that is that absolutely anything multiplied by 0 is 0. You can take absolutely any number, put it in x, and the result will be 0. So I'm right. So if I take 1 times 0, that's 0. So that means 0 divided by 0 is 1, and I'm right. But that doesn't make any sense, because I can also put 2 times 0 and have 0. So that means 0 divided by 0 is 2, but it was just 1. In fact, you can do this with every number. Technically, you can do this with 0, so we are on kind of equal footing, but you can take any number, multiply it by 0 when it's 0, so that means 0 divided by 0 is anything. It can be anything you put in. And now we've reached our impasse, which turns out to be the focal point of our answer. So we find that if we use word problems, we find that 0 divided by 0 has we find that we find that 0 divided by 0 has no possibilities. But when we use mathematical equations and stuff, we find that 0 divided by 0 has an infinite number of possibilities, but you can't have no possibilities and infinite possibilities at the same time, and this creates a paradox. And what's a paradox, you might be asking? It's a special kind of problem that has no solution, and they can only be managed. They can't be solved. So this is why 0 divided by 0 is undefined. That is the answer. 0 divided by 0 is not 1. It is not 0. It's fuck all. It is not nothing, because nothing would indicate that it's 0. 0 divided by 0 does not exist. And now, I forgot to make another slide for this, but if we go all the way back, I said something about division being repeated subtraction. So I'm thinking, how many times can I take 3 out of 3 before I reached 0? 3 out of 6, sorry. I was basically, how many times can I take this out of that before it reaches 0? And now let's try to divide 6 by 0. So let's see what happens. Let's take 6, that's the ones on the bottom. Let's take these 6 blue balls and subtract 0 from them until we get 0. So let's take 6 minus 0, that's still 6. 6 minus 0, that's still 6. 6 minus 0, that's still 6. What we're doing is we're taking, if we're doing this, we're subtracting 0 from 6 until we get 0, but we can't do that because 6 divided by 0 has no answer. It goes on forever. You can take an infinite number of zeros from 6 and it'll still be 6. So that proves that you can't divide by 0, because it'll just go on forever and you'll end up fucking nowhere. And now let's do 0 divided by 0. We don't have a slide for this, so we'll just skip all the way to the very front, because why not? So if you have nothing and you take 0 away from that nothing, technically you did reach 0. But you can take 0 from 0 an infinite any number of times, and it'll still be 0 each and every time. So also with 0 divided by 0, it stretches on forever. You did reach 0, but you can do that so many times that it doesn't matter that you reach 0, because you reach 0 an infinite number of times. And when we can go back, we're using math if we repeatedly subtract 0, so that also fits into infinite possibilities. So once again, we reach a paradox, because if we try to use word problems, we get no possibilities. And so we